Hey guys, welcome to Skipper Surf Review. So today I have Lucas Hildreth on our show, and he's gonna share his experience surfing in Iceland, and maybe he will share some secret spots too, where to go and how to score waves. I hope you guys enjoy it, and without further ado, Lucas Hildreth.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming. So, can you please tell us all about yourself, like how you ended up surfing and how you ended up going to Iceland? Because everyone wants to go, and after being seeing your videos on YouTube and Instagram, I really got a bug, and I just want to go next year.
To do a cold water surf trip to Iceland, yeah. So the way I got into Iceland was I've always seen videos like Under an Arctic Sky by Chris Burkhardt, and all these companies like Billabong, O'Neill, Quicksilver, they've all done like strike missions to Iceland. And I've always wanted to do like a cold water surf trip. Like I've done Central America like many times, done California. So I was looking into either like East Coast Canada, Norway, or Iceland. And actually what the quick deciding factor is that Iceland's is an island, and it's got two major coasts. So I figured if I went somewhere with two coasts, there was like a higher chance of getting good waves. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. And then how long have you been surfing?
So I just hit my 20th year actually.
20th year.
So I've been surfing for 20 years. I'm from Long Island. I grew up surfing Long Beach. Caught my first wave at Ditch Plains, New York actually, when I was like 5 years old. Yeah.
So what boards are you surfing primarily?
So I would say I'm like more of like an intermediate who like is as enthusiastic as an advanced surfer about like getting better. So I do a lot of training, but I'm mainly surfing like short boards, step ups, and kind of like grovelers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my favorite kind of boards are like low rocker, really fast, and I weigh around like 230 pounds, so I ride about like 45 liters usually.
Oh. And what's your height?
I'm like 6'4", a little over 6'4", yeah. So I need it. Like my short board groveler is like a 6'5", and my mini Simmons is like this wide. So it works though.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. So let's talk about Iceland. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a dreamy place. I've never been there, and I really want to go. I mean, I've done some research that if I go someday, I'll probably hit this spot on that spot, and
Mm-hmm.
I will probably stay here and there. But it's still not guaranteed that you're gonna score waves. What tools did you use to find out like when to go and where to stay? What was your projection and idea of going there and then find a way?
So there's a pretty simple like process that I'll take you through. But what's your understanding? When do you think, like off the top of your head, when do you think you would go to Iceland to get good waves?
I would guess as just based on Norway, what I know about Norway and other Arctic Circle places where you can surf, probably winter, like when we have winter here. From November, I guess, late October until March, that's probably the season to go, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly what I was thinking. But you have a little more to deal with because the daylight, yeah. And then, so the general like rule of thumb is for any surf trip you're going on is you want to go where the spot you're going to faces the winter. So the reason why Central America is good in the summer is because it faces the South Ocean winter. So like, if you want to go to Indonesia, even though it's right along the equator, you go like March to September because that's the Southern Ocean winter. Same thing if you want to score Hawaii, the wave of the winter. It's the same thing with Iceland, like you said, it's the winter months. But then when you're that high up in the Arctic Circle, there's that kicker where it's like, well, if I go in January, I'm only gonna have 4 hours of daylight. So I knew that, and I figured that I'd rather have 4 hours every day of pumping surf than 20 hours of daylight and flat. So I kind of went in winter, but we went in March, so there was still like 8 hours of solid daylight.
Oh, that's perfect.
That's perfect. Yeah, and then still plenty of waves. And then, I figured March would be what I did was I actually looked, a whole winter went by, and I checked Magic Seaweed every day. Or at least for a year, at least once a week, I would look up the spots on the North Coast and the South Coast, and I would just see it seems to be every 10 days or so, there'd be a swell hitting. And I was like, okay, I got a pretty good chance here. Whereas if I went somewhere where there's only one coast, like Norway, it would have been I'd have to go for 2 weeks, and I just couldn't afford that. And then the other thing is I had to line it up with med school and then my girlfriend's work schedule. And March, we actually left February 28th, landed on March 1st, and that luckily was the perfect time.
Wow. So it wasn't a strike mission?
No, it wasn't a strike mission. That just shows how lucky I got. But I planned it 8 months in advance. After seeing how productive March was, I was like, okay, there's plenty of swell. There's plenty of, daylight, and we wanted to do all the tourist activities too. So we figured it's a little cheaper because it's winter, there's not as many people. And it wasn't a strike mission. I had to take a big board exam right before I left, and it was crazy stuff.
So the takeaway is, if you go in March, beginning of March, you will definitely score something.
You will get waves somewhere.
Nothing crazy, nothing deadly, and terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, you could find the cool thing about Iceland was there's so many setups, and I only just scratched the surface of all the spots. There's the East Coast, there's the Northwest side, and I mainly surfed near Reykjavik.
The southern part.
Yeah, the Southwest. I didn't even make it to the classic. So the other thing I did to find out where I was gonna surf was I watched every single surfing edit of Iceland, and eventually you kind of map them, see the landmarks and match things up.
Because they don't share.
They don't tell you the exact locations.
Video, we were there, and this how would they call it? They have the black sand.
The Diamond Beach. Diamond Beach, black sand beaches.
Yeah.
But these major corporations are hitting you over the head with the landmarks, if you see an iceberg, obviously it's a Diamond Beach, and it's not going to get crowded because there's literally icebergs in the lineup. But so I watched every single video, and I was like, okay, when are they going? And I would read every description. And it's not just as much as Googling it. I was probably wasted a little too much time when I should have been studying or doing something productive. I was researching every little fact about, where was this edit, who was on the trip, and then looking back at their Instagrams and stuff, and
you kind of turn into an investigator.
Or a serial killer or something.
to hunt down. Wow, that's interesting that you went through that, so after you mapped down everything, right? Had a little puzzle put together. So were you scared to go just by yourself? Did you try to find maybe not the surf school, but maybe a private lesson, some guide, and that would go with you? So
I've actually wanted to do the Iceland surf trip for the longest time. And when I was I think a teenager, I looked into going to Iceland randomly because I had heard about it forever, and I saw a website called Arctic Surfers.
Yeah.
So they're cool. If you look them up, they're not a beginner. They're beginner, intermediate. They'll take you kind of I would benefit from riding with them because they have the 4-wheel drive cars. They can take you to cool spots, and they really know this stuff, but I couldn't afford it. I think it was $5,000 for a week. So I was as a kid, I saw that number and I was okay, I'll never be able to do this surf trip. But I guess that brings into another thing of how I all paid for it. But back to the surf spot, what stuff. I went on my own, and it was really my girlfriend and I. Probably couldn't have done it without her, but I knew
you wouldn't paddle out by yourself. If the girlfriend wasn't at the beach waiting for you with a camera,
I would have surfed it by myself. Yeah, maybe I would have taken it a little more conservatively and surfed some spots.
Text to your friends and family.
Yeah,
I'm here. If I don't come.
Well, the first spot we surfed was, I explained it in my video, but this capital city is Reykjavik, and it's tiny. Reykjavik is you could just grab a few blocks of Rockaway, or maybe Rockaway. not that many people live there. Like, it's a very small city, but it's not like remote. You know what I mean? There's like a hospital, I'm sure. But our first day, we land and we drive to like this town that's supposed to have surfing. The waves were actually too big there. It was closing out everywhere, and like the wind was kind of weird. So I drove around to like another part of the coast. I thought it would be like a little smaller maybe. We actually find like a sick pumping right kind of point break slab into like a cove, and it's just like firing. And I'm like, you asked for this. I was like, this is what I wanted. But now I'm like, oh, I got to paddle out. I don't know if I would have paddled out there if I was like truly alone. But my girlfriend was there, but there's nothing she could have done or like called anyone if I needed help. And that wave was pretty scary. Like, I was scared to go out, but I was also so fired up because the water was like clear blue, and like that's what you dream of. You go to this crazy country to go find a slab in the middle of nowhere. And I'd never seen footage of this place surfed. I just like had an idea on Google Maps, and like I said, we were capital city to small town, and then an hour outside of that small town. And basically paddled out, got worked, didn't even catch a wave at first, and like got held under by like a huge set. And I was like, wow, like a hold down for us is like 5 seconds. Like 5 seconds feels like a long time, but it wasn't like anything like gnarly, like Mavericks or something. But I was like, remember like thinking while I was underwater, like, wow, this is pretty weird. Like, you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're being held underwater. But luckily I popped right back up, and yeah, that was like a sick experience. But I was almost like, wow, that was a lot. Like, I didn't want to surf again that day. I was like jet lagged and stuff, but I was like, okay, I feel like I almost bit off more than I could chew.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you spooked a little bit.
I was spooked. But after being on land and like when we were leaving, like Christina was like kind of cold and we hadn't slept. Like, we did a red eye, so like we needed to go to like our Airbnb and sleep. But I was like, oh, maybe I could paddle back out, for another shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was a point break.
No, it was like a cove slab, and there was a crazy riptide that was like sucking me out. And so it was this balance between like, do I want to get stuck inside and worked, or do I want to get like sucked out into Greenland or something,
Wow,
Yeah.
that bad? I mean, if you paddle around...
I could have paddled around, but I just didn't know if it was safe to get... It was taking me out and kind of down. You know how they never really take you straight out? So it was taking me out and over, kind of like away from everything. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to go over there.
And then the current was like similar to what we have here on the big days in Rockaway.
Yeah, like...
You could keep up with that current.
You could. Like, eventually I just decided, like, all right, I just got to, like, put my head down and paddle. But it was weird because it was, like, a little cove, and right down the middle of the cove was running, like, a river.
That's scary.
And then, like, the second day I surfed, like, a traditional point break. That was, like, a true point break. And that one was a little sketchy because we had to, like, walk out super far to this, like, peninsula, and then it was, like, a low tide wave. So it broke out, like, really far out at sea, and like you just felt like you're surrounded by water, but that one wasn't really that dangerous.
So are there like beginner friendly? I mean, what level you have to go surfing there? I mean, just go by yourself with your girlfriend or friend or with your buddies?
There's definitely like waves for everybody. I didn't really surf any like true beginner spots. Like there's like beautiful beach breaks that you can go to and like score. But when I was there, the swell was 8 feet at 11 seconds. For that first day I surfed the slab, and I was like, oh, it's not going to be that big. Like I brought a groveler and the mini Simmons. I didn't even bring like a shortboard because I was like, it's just not. But like it was like really strong. But that's like not normal. You know what I mean? So there's beach breaks and there's really cool point breaks. So if you're an intermediate surfer, I think you want to score a point break. And the most consistent wave in all of Iceland, I actually didn't surf. There's like a famous right point break on the south coast. And that's what I thought I had like 100% chance of surfing, but I didn't actually make it to it during the trip.
You didn't make it because it wasn't working, or just because it's far, and you have to drive?
Yeah, so that actually brings me to like the fourth day. So I surfed that like point break that was like out at sea, but not dangerous. The first like second and third day, and then the fourth day was the really cool wave up north. We'll just call that the wave up north. But that is an epic wave, and that was what my goal was, to surf that, because that's in the Arctic Ocean too. That was like, I was so focused. I would research about the town and stuff. I would just like learn about the history. When was the town founded? How many population lived there? I was just like totally nerding out, trying to learn everything I could. How do you get there? And like, my girlfriend was even like, she had the thought. She wasn't like doubting me, but she was like, what if like we get to this town and the wave's not there? Like, what if it is, like it happened to be somewhere else? Because that could happen. Like, you see a lot of landmarks, but I was pretty sure, but so I was trying to learn everything I could. That wave would be like a really fun intermediate wave to surf, because like, when you're an intermediate surfer, you can surf Point Break, that's fun, even a beginner. And weirdly enough, I got there, it was flat, but it was kind of like an optical illusion, because the only set waves broke there. It was like a dream, like no little waves. So in between sets. So like, you're just waiting and it's dead flat. And then this wave comes from like super far away and breaks.
And it would be like four waves per set, or 4, 5?
Like three. Like 2 good ones, 3 waves per set.
And the period was still 11 seconds? Or
the period was a little higher. It was like kind of long period, like 14 seconds. Wow. Which was really rare. So yeah.
Rare for that spot?
Rare for the Arctic Ocean.
For the Arctic Ocean.
Because the Arctic Ocean is the shallowest ocean. So you think shallow, it's also the smallest. So, long period, you think of the Pacific as the biggest. So it's kind of rare to get long period. And that brings up a whole other thing. But back to the intermediate thing, I surfed for like 2 hours alone. It was the coolest 2 hours of my life. I'm in this like crystal clear blue water, and there's these white mountains everywhere. And like, the weird thing though was I learned all this. I knew there was going to be mountains. I knew I was going to be surrounded. I knew I was probably going to be alone. But the weird thing is, this spot's like famous, like from Chris Burkert and all these people. It smells like fish. It was like this weird Easter egg. Like the whole town reeked of fish, and it was really fishy in the water. But so I surfed for 2 hours alone, like absolutely scoring. And then, like this guy paddles out. He's like a German guy. He's living there. And then he was a good surfer, but then like the other people who were surfing were all beginners.
Really?
Yeah, like this, I don't know. I think it's just because like you go into the Arctic, surfing, it doesn't have the population. Like Florida, there's kids rip because it has a huge population of surfers. Like you get up and places like, Massachusetts, there's not as much of a population. You still have guys that rip, but there's not a huge population of surfers. So it makes sense. There's like more beginners, I guess. So yeah, there was a guy on a wave storm out there who was like going over the lip, getting worked. And so like, yeah, you don't need to be like that good to surf that wave. And the wave was so perfect. Like we can run some clips, but the wave was like, would stand up and was like hollow in the beginning. Not really hollow, but it was good shape. And like, it was easy to get into because you weren't like paddling around in circles looking for it. You knew where to sit and it would just come in. It's not like a beach break where you're fighting the current for hours. And you ever get that in the winter and then finally the wave comes to you, but your arms are like dead. It wasn't like that at all. So I would say anyone could surf this wave.
It's great.
Yeah.
Good to hear. But then if you beginner, if you don't get to that spot, there's still spots around probably Reykjavik and
around Reykjavik, there's plenty of beach breaks and stuff to surf. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You scored that wave. It was amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to go back to surf this wave, or you would go somewhere else next time? What's on your plan now?
So what's next?
What's next?
Well, like when is the next swell? So that wave was like so epic, and like I knew it was a life goal of mine to surf that, like, and to surf in the Arctic Ocean. I'll get to what's next in like a sec, but. I would absolutely go back and surf that wave. Like it's famous for like the mountain. It's famous for all the scenery and where it is, being like right along the Arctic Circle. But it's such a good wave too. You know what I mean? Like you take all the the novelty cool mountain, you take it all away and put it somewhere like ugly, I don't know, like in New York City, it would still be like the sickest wave ever. And I felt like I could surf that wave like better than I could surf here. You know what I mean? So I want to go back like whenever it breaks. But there was one guy, his name's like Atli. He's he's like a true Icelandic surfer. I met him in the lineup last session. It was just him and I surfing, and he was like, "You are so lucky that it broke during your 8-day stay, because he says it breaks 5 times a year." And I was like, "Really?" And I was like, he's like, "Yeah, because like it needs a certain wind direction, and like Surfline will say like it's good this day, but apparently that's just like an algorithm. Like it doesn't just need offshore winds; it needs offshore winds this certain direction, or else it's flat." And I was like, no way. Because when I went up there, I thought I was going to get 3 days of surf. It's actually
on the Surfline, you can see that it's going to be good.
Surfline had orange for 3 days. So I was like, okay, this Saturday that I go up, I'm going to drive up that day, surf that night, and then score it the next day. But what happened was there was like a little wind switch, and at 3 a.m., I woke my girlfriend up, and I said, I just happened to wake up, looked at the wind, and I was like, the swell is going to be biggest today, the day we're supposed to travel up there. Yeah. So I was like, we got to go now. And it was the middle of the night, 3 a.m., the middle of the night. And we drove for like 5 hours in the dark.
5 hours?
Yeah. And I drove the whole time. She just slept. And the last hour, it was daylight. So we were driving through the dark the whole time because the sun rises at like 8 a.m. there. And we rolled up, and like I was saying before, we thought it was flat and all that thing. But then I was talking to that guy in the lineup. He was like, "You don't understand how lucky you are. Like many crews of like pro surfers have come up here, and I've seen people surf it when it was like choppy. But I was like, all right, whatever." So then we got a hotel like in a nearby town. Woke up the next morning to check it, and it was bigger swell. So the buoys were bigger, but it was smaller and so choppy, just not working at all. And I was like, wow, he was right, because he was like, the wind, if it's onshore at all, it flattens the wave out. And it was only forecasted to be like 5 mile an hour onshore, which, 5 mile an hour on here, it's glassy. Yeah, but for some reason up there, it makes everything choppy. So there's all these little nuances that like I studied so much, but it like had to go right. Wow. Really weird. Like, so weird. Yeah.
I mean, it's Mother Nature over there is a little different. I mean, wow.
And then that same day, we left, went to like a different kind of region, and it was cleaner, but no swell. And I was like, that's so weird, But to get back to your question, like what's next? So I have like this life goal to surf all 7 continents and surf all 7 oceans. So you got the Pacific, North and South, Atlantic, North and South, Indian, Arctic, and Southern Ocean. The hardest one, obviously, is going to be Antarctica and Southern Ocean. Because I've always wanted to go to the 7 continents. That's just been a goal of mine, even though I have like none. I have 2 continents. Before this trip, I've never been off of North America. So this is something I want to do like long range. So what's next is I think I want to get a new continent or new ocean somehow. Yeah.
Well, you hit already Pacific, not Atlantic.
North Pacific, North Atlantic, Arctic.
Arctic.
Yeah.
Right. Indian, maybe.
Yeah, Indian. The Maldives, yeah. The hard thing is in med school, I don't have much time to get there. Because it takes like 3 days just to arrive in the Maldives. Or the Mentawais, yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, I saw that wave. It's beautiful, right? And the Point Break. Have you had some similar waves without that setup with the mountains and stuff up here in the Northeast? I've seen your videos. You're surfing here. We have Point Breaks. I'm not gonna say where, but anything close in terms of quality like that?
The thing I kept saying, which was why it was so amazing, is because all the X factors was insane. The no crowd and no current. It was so still. Like, how you get, there's like point breaks, there's sand point breaks in Jersey. There's like those sand Namibia lefts. Like you go to true Namibia, you're probably fighting the current the whole time. This was like, you were chilling. no current. You're just hanging out. Wave would come in. No duck diving. You'd paddle out in the channel. It was just so perfect. It was kind of like nothing I've ever seen. But personally, I like surfing point breaks a lot better than beach breaks because I grew up surfing a lot in like Montauk. So there's some waves out there that like got me ready for this. And then I've gone to El Salvador. It actually reminded me a lot of an El Salvadorian point break, but without the crowds, without any chop. Like it was just like, perfect.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, so the thing I kept, like I was telling my girlfriend like all this stuff, and I was like, this wave is so good, but like it's so hard to get to, and I just like surfing point breaks. Can I just find this in New England? Like in southern New England, there's so many point breaks. Like, do I even need to go all the way here? And I was like questioning because I'm like, do I really want to surf this wave or I just want to surf a perfect point, And after surfing there, the wave up north, I was like, yeah, I want to go back. I want to surf that wave. It was way better than anything I could have imagined.
And that's the most famous wave that everyone wants to surf. Or there's another one.
There's like all these famous waves. There's like slabs up there that people probably think are cooler. Chris Burkard's movies have shown some other points. But yeah, I feel like that's like the crown jewel. It's hard to get.
Even if you go and pick any time in March or something, you will end up surfing without anyone. I mean, uncrowded spot.
Oh yeah.
Maybe 1-2 people.
Well, like in my research, I've read like multiple articles, and then like did like kind of my own research, you could say. But some of the articles would quote from like the famous like photographer. His name's Ellie Thor Magnuson. He said there's around like 40 to 60. Maybe I'm misquoting him, but I heard there's 40 to 60 surfers in the whole country. So imagine that.
Yeah, imagine.
Like,
and it's like a driving between each spot
is like 6 hours. Yeah, it's 5 hours and stuff. Like imagine like not even New York, because Iceland is probably like the coastline is probably as much as like New England. So imagine there only being 50 surfers in all of New England. So yeah, you're gonna get it uncrowded, but people showed up, like those beginners and the Iceland surfer and this German man I met. People were there, like surfing the super remote wave.
Have you asked them how they manage? They just like look out the window and then see the wave breaking and they go, or they check the forecast too? What's their,
Yeah.
I think so, they're the people who will know more and then let you know, all right, you should come probably next month.
Yeah. Like, so talking to them, we shared some information, but they're all still trying to learn everything too. Like, the one guy was like, I've also been checking the wind every day for 2 weeks and he lived the town over. So he didn't have to go that far. And then the other thing they told me was they were looking at me as if I was like lucky, but I kind of got away with something because like they were like, when this wave goes, it usually breaks after a huge storm, and the storms close all the roads with snow. So they close down the roads if there's too much snow up north and whatnot. So he was like, there was no snow on the roads when I went. So there was like, you got to be really lucky, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So Lucas, besides surfing, what else you can do in Iceland? I mean, if you bring a family, girlfriend, friends, and what else they will do while you scoring? You'll have fun. How are they gonna have fun?
Yeah. So like one thing I wanted to do also was I really wanted to see the culture and like see all the cool stuff. I guess the one thing we paid for. Because a lot of it's like free, after you pay all the money for the rental car and stuff, you just zoom around the country, was we went snorkeling in this like continental divide glacial lake that was like the clearest visibility in the world. It was super cold, it was freezing. Even for me who had surfed the whole time, like it was so cold. But the visibility was insane. Like it just feels like you're not even in water. It just feels like you're floating because you can see like everything perfectly. And Christina really wanted to do that. That was cool. And then the classic thing is like the waterfalls. You go to Iceland to see like these epic waterfalls. In March, it's usually frozen over, but when we were there was like pretty much no snow on the ground. And like the waterfalls are something that like I would, see in like clips on Instagram, videos, like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like I've seen pictures of it, but like, it's kind of like when the Grand Canyon, even though I've never been there, here you get there and it's like beautiful. You know, it's jaw dropping in person. That was how I felt about the waterfalls. Like in person, they were magnificent. Skogafoss is the main one. It's about an hour and a half from Reykjavik. And that was like just insane to see. Like there was a rainbow right over the waterfall and there's like a really cool hike, and I could have just hung out there all day. And I even drank the water from one of the waterfalls. Like there's a waterfall and then a stream. I asked the people there and they're like, yeah, drink it, go ahead. And the best tasting water ever. Like no exaggeration. It tasted amazing. Like just sipping this like cool, clean water. So really good.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. The one thing I would say was kind of like overrated was this geyser. The geyser, like, it's cool. It just kind of like only shot up like a few feet when we saw it. Probably could have waited for like a bigger one, but yeah.
How about Blue Lagoon?
Blue Lagoon was really cool. That was something that I was like, I don't know. It's like you got to pay for it, but we did it at the right time. Like, you know, everyone who goes to Iceland goes there, so it's like a good
pictures, like, you know, drinking and sitting.
Yeah. We I don't know if, I think we didn't. They give you 2 drinks, but it was like first thing in the day, so we did like the mud mask and everything, and you know, it was cool. And then you're able to like share that with other people who've gone to Iceland. You can talk about that. The one thing that was like so underrated was the hot springs. Like just absolutely like blew my mind that this like warm water that's like perfect human temperature is coming out of the water, and you kind of have to like hike into them, but that was like a cool experience also because like you're hiking, you're freezing cold, and then you like take off all your clothes and like jump in this like little hot spring. And
is it free?
Yeah, so that's free. You just gotta like drive there.
Anyone like regulates that, or you just drives and pull over and then you go and...
Yeah, there was no one there. There was like a sign that said, please like wear your bathing suits. And
a sign like do it on your own risk and stuff?
No, just like a sign. Yeah, just hanging there saying like don't go in naked. But there was some other people there, but it kind of like self-regulates. You wait. There was like this cool like troll changing room, like a grass hut, and we just like, you know, waited for the people in front of us to change. Went into like the hot spring, and then they're like different temperatures. So the one we went into was not deep enough and was cold. So we had to like make our way over to like the warmer one when other people got out. But that was like the coolest non-surf experience. Like I could just do a session and then hop in the hot spring and like warm up. I could do that every day of my life. Like that was super cool.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
We had that one in Rockaway here.
Yeah, just like a hot spring
here.
Yeah.
I mean, then we'll have
right in Queens.
all around.
Yeah, then everyone be coming to surf here.
No, leave home.
Yeah, it would be more crowded in the winter. Yeah.
How about glaciers?
Glaciers, I didn't see any glaciers. The famous like Diamond Beach is there's a glacier and then a glacier lake. There's an inlet, and it's not because it's super cold that there's ice on the beach. It's because the glacier breaks up, the ice flows out the river, and then the waves push the ice back onto the lake, or back onto the beach. We didn't make it there, but so that was like a 6-hour drive, and we either were gonna do one like bomb out all the way north to the crazy wave, or we were gonna surf, or we were gonna go there, check that out, like bring a board along the way.
But you opted out for that.
We opted out, yeah, just because we didn't want to spend like the whole time driving and, you know, having to get like a hotel somewhere else. And so we just did like one crazy drive, and then we pretty much went like, you know, 2 hours away, an hour away from where we stayed most of the time.
So what was your budget for 7 days?
8 days with red eye. So it was like 6 nights. So let me see, my flight was about like $450. Like I said, we booked them way in advance for a round trip ticket. That was pretty good. And then, so we're down $450 for that. I think the hotel was we stayed at Airbnb. I split the costs. So I think it was about $800, which is pretty good, or like maybe that was $1,000. So we're up to like $1,500 right now, and then the rental car was $640 total. So it was
full insurance, or
with full insurance. If you book it with a credit card that covers insurance, you don't have to pay for insurance. So we booked it with like the right credit card and everything. So yeah, I would say I spent like $2,000 to get there with a rental car and go around.
not splitting, just
we're splitting.
We're splitting.
We're splitting, yeah.
Otherwise, if you go by yourself alone,
If you go by yourself, I would say. Well, here's the thing. If I went by myself, I was gonna get a van, or a. They have like a van.
The luxury, like
not the luxury, yeah. Yeah. They have vans, but then they also have like these Ford Explorers with just a bed in the back. So that's what I was gonna opt for, because I was gonna try to combine the cost of a hotel and a and car, because you need a car. You can't just, if you're gonna be chasing surf or you're gonna chasing waterfalls, like you gotta
have a all-wheel drive at least.
Yeah, you gotta have four-wheel drive basically. Because I was willing to splurge. Like $2,000 is a lot of money for me. Like I don't have any left after that. But like I wanted to like pay because I was gonna be there. I wanted to get the four-wheel drive car, because the last thing you want is like, oh, there's an inch of snow on the ground, the north wave is pumping, and you can't get there, right? So I'd rather like it cost a lot of money, but we paid off the dividends. You know what I mean? And like fun and experience because of that. But yeah, so if I went alone, say like $500 for the flight, and then I feel like I could have got the rest figured out for like $1,000. But that's no food either. Super expensive. Expensive. Yeah. Oh, I guess the other thing was I paid for gas, which was paid $545 in gas while I was there. Gas is $8 a gallon.
$8.
Yeah, roughly. We worked it out with the literages and stuff. And I had a Jeep Compass, which is pretty good on gas. In a van, it would probably be more. But so yeah, I spent like over $2,000. It was pretty spread out, so I never thought about that whole number.
What about food? Like the sandwich?
The sandwiches. So like, yeah, my vibe was to eat peanut butter and jellies the whole time. But we went out. We had like fish. That was one thing that was nice. Is I went out like a few nights, ate fish. Really good fish. Like I'm not a huge like fish guy, but after this trip, I was like, I want to eat as much like Arctic char and all these different things. Pretty expensive for the food.
You went to a restaurant?
Yeah, we went to a few restaurants in Reykjavik. We got ice cream sometimes because it's a cheaper source of calories. So we ate a lot of yogurt too. This thing called skyr. So we'd go to the grocery store. We'd get like skyr and like cereal. A lot of like milk, cereal, skyr. That's the cheap stuff up there. I like eating broccoli and vegetables, but those were too expensive because there's no like farming up there. So we opted not to do that. Cause
I'm surprised you didn't cook in the car.
Yeah.
What you usually do.
I didn't. That'd have been pretty fun. Yeah, banana, butter, cooking up some broccoli, chicken. That was, I had brought so much gear. That was the other thing. I brought 3 suitcases and a board bag stuffed with, because like 2 wetsuits, booties, gloves. And then you got to pack all your winter like pants. It's not like going to Puerto Rico where you just throw the boards in, put your bathing suit in, you're good to go. Yeah. So that was one thing that surprised me, was how much stuff I needed. And like I wanted so bad. I wanted to bring my my portable heater and my portable stove. So, if it got cold or the car broke down, I could heat it up in the car and then I could start cooking. But I was like, I don't know how I'm going to bring a stove all the way there. So it was just yogurt and ice cream for us.
Wow.
Yeah. When we do our trip to Russia, I'll cook for us. Don't worry, I'll get us a stove.
That's where
to Kamchatka, yeah.
We may go at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know when.
What do you mean might?
We'll try.
We're going.
I'd rather go to Iceland, to be honest.
Iceland, it's a good starter. So it's definitely like a good starter cold water trip. Like I said, with the 2 coasts, you get waves on either side. And then like for how far north it is, like it's really weird. You look at the globe and it's like that one place as a kid you'd look at and be like, oh, people wouldn't fall off there. When you look at the globe and you see Antarctica and you're like, how do people stand there? but it's so far north, and it's like, for how far north it is and like remote, it's pretty accessible. Like, you know, you can get a flight there. There's like rental cars. So for a first time cold water surf trip, I would recommend Iceland probably.
So it can be like a beginner friendly place to go at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Especially if there's no big swell, like some little bit.
Like in summer. The cool thing about Iceland is that the south coast, you can draw a line pretty much all the way down to like Brazil. So if you think about it, there's so much, you know, fetch that waves could happen. So I think even in the summer, there's like little waves. And that would be a cool time to go also, because you can do all the tourist attractions and stuff, and then surf little waves.
You can surf, like daylight is always 22 hours.
Yeah, so that is something I thought about, because I was like, I'd have more opportunity to surf. I could surf at like 11 p.m. at night if I went in the summer.
Yeah.
But I think it works out where there's more swell if you go in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have, like,
but then in the summer you can really chase it. You know, if you're gonna see it be like 1 foot bigger at night, because that always happens to us, right? You know, swell hits overnight.
It's always cleaner at night too.
Yeah. So I was thinking like, oh, we could just go, you know, 12 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Any other activities you can do? I mean, besides touristy stuff, like, can you do like snowboarding and stuff? Do they offer anything? There's
two snow resorts in the south, and then there's one ski slope or two ski slopes up north, and they have like famous heli skiing. That the surfer I met up north, the German guy Jacob, he actually worked at a heli skiing operation, and they had like a tough year for snow. But I've been watching his like Instagram story. We like friends now, and they've been getting dumped on snow. So it's like pretty famous for like snowboarding and stuff. And that motivated me to bring my snowboard. Actually, the whole reason I wanted to bring I brought my snowboard. I had so much gear, and then I had my bindings, which were so awkward. I had just slipped the snowboard, like no coverage, into the board bag, and that wasn't a big deal. But then like my whole family was like rolling their eyes at me, like, "Are you really gonna snowboard? You haven't snowboarded in like 6 years." They were like, I haven't been in forever, and they were like, "What are you doing?" But I was like, "No, in Iceland, I want to snowboard," and like shoved the bindings into my suitcase, and I didn't have a screwdriver to put the bindings on when I got to Iceland, and it just wasn't, you know, it wasn't top priority. Like surfing was so focused, so this just kind of like slipped through the cracks. When we were up north, there was plenty of snow.
So you could have.
I could have gone, yeah. If you see in the background of the footage, there's like, people were commenting on some of the videos, like, oh, there's like, you know, cool lines that you could backcountry ski, and like, I really wanted to do that. But it was just like logistically so much going on. I never really thought about it. And then like the last day I went, bought a screwdriver for like, you know, $20 in Icelandic or whatever it is. And we didn't even end up snowboarding because we were in the south and we were looking for snow. There was no snow.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you have a ski resort that you have lifts?
They have lifts, yeah. Okay. I think the two ones on the south side were like shut down because there was absolutely no snow.
Same here.
Right? Yeah, it wasn't a good winter. Yeah. Did you snowboard this winter?
Yeah. I mean, not as often. I just, you know, sometimes go a little bit.
Yeah.
We might go.
It's so fun. You might go. There's snow tomorrow?
No, I just like, I think I missed those bow days.
Okay.
So I was just gonna go like.
But there's still snow on the mountain, right?
Yeah, I think, but it's gonna melt next week.
Yeah, that's something I miss. That Kamchatka movie. What was it called? Corners of the Earth. That one really motivated me to like do one of these cold surf trips. I saw the trailer and listened to the podcast, but that kind of motivated me to bring the snowboard. Because I was like, what a crazy idea. Like you're on a surf trip, but then you're just also going to snowboard.
I mean, you would check all the boxes. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you would go above and beyond if you would snowboard.
It would have been too much if I snowboarded. Yeah, I've just been asking for a little too much.
Does Christina snowboard too, or ski?
She's a professional dancer, so she's like not allowed to ski, but she knows how to do it. And once she's like, you know, has a little easier career path, she'll be able to ski and stuff. That's something she wants to do.
Injury,
yeah, she's at a point in her career when she can't, like, she doesn't want to get injured. But yeah, she knows how to ski and stuff like that.
Wow, interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
I want to go so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, next year I want to go back, so
March.
you could come in the van with me and we could just huddle up together.
My son's birthday is in March, so
okay.
we may just
you bring him.
Yeah, he's gonna be 5.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll be.
Bring your board. Bring the drone.
Drone board.
Bring a good board too to review while you're in Iceland, like the best cold water surfboard.
Yeah. So if you're a shaper watching, you want to send the board.
That is the thing I had to thank was Arc Surfboards. They built me the Mini Simmons, which is the best board I've ever owned. Like, it's epic. That's another board I brought, like the snowboard, didn't use it once because the waves were like pumping.
Yeah.
And I didn't need a super uber groveler. But I gotta thank Timmy Smith at Arc Surfboards because he shaped me a 6'5" Stealth to go up there. It was kind of like too big. It was the exact board I wanted. It like fit between a shortboard and a fish, like kind of like performance groveler. But like epic shape. I was like, I kind of like went too big. It was really beefy, but that's exactly what I needed up there. I was wearing 6'5'4", and then I was wearing 8mm Solite boots with a 1mm sock. So I had so much rubber on, and that board just like worked perfectly. Perfect point break board, and then I just loved it so much that I rode it the whole time. Like, I didn't even put the fins in the Mini, I just rode that board, and got to give a shout out to Tim, so thank you.
Yeah, great board.
We got to get a Stealth for Yuri.
Yeah, Mini Simmons. I love that board.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to this podcast, to people who've been watching this and have an idea now to go? Any tips, like something to bring?
Yeah.
Just to pay attention.
So, like, I was really focused on like having every scenario that could go wrong, like be prepared for that. So I brought like 2 wetsuits for that reason. But I didn't know if that was absolutely necessary. Like, I feel like I could have gotten away with one and just made sure I didn't lose it. I would just try to like minimize stuff because, the bigger rental cars cost a lot more. So if you're going to be bringing like your whole quiver, maybe not the best thing. Like, we only had 2 people in the Jeep Compass, and 2 boards kind of felt like not too much, but it felt like a lot. What other tips I would give is, drink water. Like, literally just get a big gallon or whatever, fill it up at the waterfalls. Like, don't pay because it's like $7 from one of those like big water bottles. And yeah, I would just say go for it. Like, the biggest thing, the reason why like we succeeded was because we just went for it. Like, we picked, ultimately it seemed like a strike mission, right? Yeah. For how good a waves we got, but like we picked the best month. And then we just like went for it basically. And like, you have to, you can think of so many reasons not to go because it's expensive, because like a lot of the people who have done it successfully are like pro surfers, and they're being backed by like corporations, and they can go for multiple weeks. Maybe somewhere in Iceland is also sponsoring them. You just gotta go. And that's how you score. Because when I ultimately pulled the trigger, I was like, this is so much money. I have like a year left of med school, and I'm just gonna be like not able to do anything fun. But if I don't do it now, I probably will do it in the future, but I just really want to do this. So I picked 8 months and I just went for it. Or I picked 8 days and I just went for it. So that's what I would say. Just pull the trigger and go for it.
Should you mentally prepare yourself like that? If I go to Iceland for 10 days, for instance, that if I get like a couple days of surfing, that would be the best. I mean, that would be scoring. That would count as scoring, I assume, in terms of like hitting that swell and...
yeah, absolutely. If you get one... Well, I realized like later in my surfing career, like within the past 2 years, that like quality is kind of more important. If you go somewhere, you'd rather get one epic day where you get like the barrel of your life, or not even the barrel of your life. Like, if you get like 3 barrels, or like you get 3 epic long rides at a point break, that's worth a week of groveling, right? Back in New York or something. So yeah, if you go for 10 days and you surf 4 days and you score 2, that's a success right there. I think I totaled 4 of the 8 days I was there. I think I surfed 5 days total, but
that was exception. I would say, right? Because the
Yeah.
spot usually doesn't break.
Doesn't break, yeah. Well, you could find waves somewhere.
could've found.
And I could have surfed every day of that trip, but we were just doing other stuff. And the other thing was like, when the waves were good, we went for it. Like that day that was epic up north, we poured like all our resources, all of our energy. I surfed 3 2-hour sessions in the Arctic 37-degree water. And yeah, we just went for the best day. So that would be my advice too. If you get up there and you have an idea of the day is going to be good, like take advantage of that day. That's probably going to be the best waves you get. And then don't worry about like whatever happens the other days.
And also it wasn't snowing, as you say, but usually it does snow.
Usually it snows and it makes travel a lot harder. Like if you watch Under the Arctic Sky, they're getting like hammered and they're in these, Land Rovers cutting through the snow. It would have been, we just wouldn't have been able to do it. And we knew that was a risk. Like if it snows, we weren't going to like risk our lives. We just weren't going to go. But luckily it was pretty clear.
But if for instance, I don't want to travel a lot and I don't want to spend a lot of time driving and I want to just make a kind of easy trip for myself. If I stay in the capital, Reykjavik, and can I find anything over there within 10 days?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Within 10 days, I would say the most consistent wave, to me, because I wanted to surf point breaks. Like I didn't really want to go and surf just beach breaks. There's a cool wave like in the city, but then I also heard that one never breaks. So I don't even know. It seemed pretty consistent when I was there. But there's like waves outside of the city that are like an hour drive, very doable, that are like, you could definitely surf in 10 days. I would say no matter the year too. Like, in the winter you probably have, no matter what time of the year, like in the winter you probably have a better chance of surfing like a few days. But even if you go in the summer, I think you could find like really fun beach break and no one out. It's just all to yourself.
And then what boards would you bring next time?
Like, okay, so I've become very superstitious. Even in med school, like I have all these like rituals I do where like, I weirdly believe a lot more in karma. So if I take a test and I haven't got the grades back, I think if I like help an old lady across the street or something, that'll help me not fail. So like I had this weird superstition that I didn't want to get too cocky, so I didn't want to bring a step up, even though like a few people told me, bring a step up. The waves it's 8 feet at 11 seconds your first day. You should bring a step up. So I brought the mini Simmons and a shortboard. I would kind of do that again because there were points where I could have ridden the mini Simmons, maybe like the first session up north because it was kind of like a mushy wave, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah, so that's what I would bring. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'll bring probably 2.
You bring 2 boards?
Like a small wave board and then something high performance shortboard maybe, or kind of like a little bit something with 6 foot range.
I think 2 boards is good just for like maneuvering through the airport and stuff. Like obviously I'd rather bring 3, step up, shortboard, Uber groveler, like a fish or something.
And longboard maybe too.
But just because, yeah, I don't ride longboards, I don't like that. But no, I would recommend fish and a shortboard, a proper shortboard.
Can you rent a board out there? Did you see?
It would be hard. It would be hard. Yeah, I've heard of other people going and renting boards, but like Iceland's weird. Like a lot. Like we were trying to go to the bathroom on the trip up, or I was trying to go, and there's just not places open along the way. And like even in the capital, there's a place called Bumblebee Surfboards that are shaping boards, and then there's one other place like Arctic Surfers. It would just be tough if you got there the first day. The waves were pumping. It'd be really hard to like get a board within just landing, Okay.
All right. Yeah. Bring your own gear, surfboard. Yeah, and yourself.
So what boards would you bring if you were going?
Definitely the Davis Sky Skiff.
You love that thing.
Yeah, that one will. I'll try to push it even like get ready for Iceland. I will try to go maybe on the bigger days here and then figure out maybe I'll be able to surf much bigger wave from this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not sure about the second one. We'll see.
Maybe a mid-length?
At that time, I may have something else.
Yeah. This whole board rack will be full of other boards.
Yeah, we'll see. So make a decision. But that one for sure for small days.
Yeah, because you just don't want to get there and have it be small and then be stuck like groveling, on a shortboard.
Maybe see a twin pin down.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people go with twin fins. Like I watched this one film by Asher Pacey where he just brought fishes. And he was surfing this gnarly slab on like a fish and like kind of sliding out but still making it work. So that's what also inspired me not to bring a step up and to bring these like fishy type boards.
Yeah, they do well.
They work,
They
work,
work, and they're improving a lot and not, skipping like crazy and holding now and big stuff. So, all right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you, Lucas, for sharing your knowledge and tips about Iceland. Hope you guys will make it. If you have any questions, suggestions, please leave them in the comment section down below. Check out Lucas' Instagram, how people can find you.
So you can find me on YouTube, just Lucas Hildreth, my name, and then my Instagram is @Lucas_Hildreth. Definitely recommend checking out the vlogs. They're just like fun surf edits. They're not too long, very digestible. And we just had the best time. Yeah. It was just a really fun trip.
And it's not only Iceland. You have a lot of videos about surfing in New York, slabs in New England, and more Hawaii trips. So check them out. So you can reach out Lucas if you have any questions or you want to redirect in person.
You can definitely just DM me Lucas_Hildreth on Instagram. I pretty much answer everything in there, and I answer everything in my comment section also. So, well, thank you for having me on. It's been awesome. The legend, the quiver master over here with all the boards. It was good.
All right, guys. Until next time.
We'll see ya.
Bye.